A special prosecutor to investigate the special prosecutor. My next guest, along with 11 of his colleagues, are calling for an investigation into the Mueller probe, suggesting that the bias runs deep.
If Mueller had any interest in making sure the public knew this was a just and proper action, he would have gone out of his way to hire people who were not connected to the Clintons, to the Democratic Party. That way, people would know that this is a just and fair action.
Congressman Louis Gohmert joins me now. I think a lot of people in our audience understand your frustration. At the same time, does it make sense to call for this before we even know what the outcome is from the original special prosecutor?
Yeah. Well, it does, Melissa, for this reason. It appears that there were potential crimes committed by Rosenstein, by Mueller, by Weissmann. They were part of the original Russia uranium investigation. They knew that Russia was attempting illegally to get possession of our uranium, and they even had a person inside the operation that was helping them establish a case. But rather than make a case, they squelched everything, and that was when Hillary Clinton was trying to get approval, and the Council on Foreign Investments for the U.S., CFIUS, had to give the approval of the sale of our uranium, or the sale doesn't go through. And if the sale didn't go through, $145 million doesn't appear in the Clinton Foundation coffers, along with the Clintons being enriched in apparently other ways. So really, they did the unthinkable and had their informant forced him basically to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and those were people that should have been the last possible people in line to ever investigate anything to do with Russia and the Trump campaign, because they had to keep the statute of limitations running on themselves.
But does putting another special prosecutor in place, does that solve that problem? Because, I mean, we're kind of proving that, you know, by virtue of putting somebody in this position of investigating, that it doesn't, you know, necessarily have the best investigation and the best outcome. It seems like compounding the mistake.
Well, that's because of who was put in place. Rosenstein and Mueller, if they'd had any ethical aspect to them at all, they would have said, Rosenstein would have said, look, you know, I've been going before the FISA court and agreeing to submit things that were a fraud upon the court. So I'm not a good person to appoint a special counsel. They should never have been. There are potential crimes that had occurred, and unlike investigating the Trump campaign, where they couldn't really specify a particular crime that may have occurred, there are specific criminal offenses that appear to at least be worth investigating.
But before we run out of time, I just want to ask you, it doesn't seem like there's anybody who could do the investigation who wouldn't be accused of being political or doesn't have a dog in the fight. I mean, does that person exist that everyone would accept the outcome of it and not say that they had a vested interest?
Well, it would depend on how they set up the committee. The way Mueller set up his office, it was very clear he was on a political witch hunt. He only wanted people that hated Donald Trump, and that's what he got. People that loved Hillary Clinton and hated Donald Trump. So he established right away exactly what he was up to. It was a witch hunt. It was a political hunt. And so, yeah, you can find those people that do vote in elections, but they don't contribute to one side or another. They don't go out and condemn one candidate over another. They've got a clean record, and they pursue justice, and not just us in the Department of Justice. So.
We'll see. Congressman, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.